In this episode of the Raising the Vibration podcast, I talk with Rich from Audiojack about his journey from being an extremely unhealthy touring DJ to a health-conscious, more grounded runner. Rich discusses what his lifestyle was like prior to him embarking on his run journey.
My drinking got quite heavy, smoking 20 a day, partying, going out on a Friday night, coming back on a Sunday night.
The beautiful side of being alone in the elements.
Well, like my favourite runs really are like the depths of winter, sideways rain smashing you in the face, no other humans in sight anyway, maybe like 6 a.m. just one lone person walking their dog.
How running works as a healthy release.
And for me, I often describe running as the best type of self-harm I have available.
Rich's attitude to the challenges running can bring.
I don't necessarily see running as being a challenge so much as life is the challenge.
Rich explains his attitude on trying to beat times.
These things are essentially ego trips, and any ego trip, the joy of it is short-lived.
And the advice Rich would give to any beginner runner.
Run slower. To run fast, you have to run far, and to run far, you have to run slow.
Okay, I'd like to start by acknowledging that we are broadcasting this podcast from the lands of the Wurundjeri people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. I would like to pay respect to elders, both past and present, of the Kulin Nation, and extend that respect to all their Indigenous Australians listening in. My next guest is an absolute fan favourite down here in Australia, one half of the legendary Audiojack, who are not only incredibly respected DJs, but two of the Thickest Thieves crew's most beloved artists. So much so that I can drop a bombshell today that we are releasing a record from you boys on our Thickest Thieves label pretty soon. Rich, how the hell are you, bro?
Good, Mike. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. What's happening?
Yeah, what is happening at the moment? That's the question, isn't it? Yeah, right. Yeah, at the moment I'm recovering from, I did the Manchester Marathon 2 weekends ago, so I'm resting quite a bit at the moment and eating lots of food, eating so much food.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've actually just come off the back. I did a 72-hour fast at the weekend.
Yeah? Was it
good? Just water. Yeah. I normally fast quite regularly, but because I've been running every day, I can't train fasted, so I haven't done a fast for like 2 months. So I've got a slight injury at the minute that's kept me off my feet for a couple of weeks. So I just decided to throw in a 72-hour fast, and I've literally been eating since I broke the fast last night.
I've not really got into fasting yet per se, but like I've got a daughter who's 4, so we have like family dinner at like 5:30, and then I try not to eat until like 8, 9 the next morning.
That's great, man.
Like a sort of long stint every day.
Yeah, good, man. Good. Hey, before we get into, like, obviously we're gonna like talk a lot about running and stuff today because that's something me and you have in common. But I just thought, how's everything going for you guys at the minute? Like, how's your year been? How have you guys got through the last 18 months? What changes have you made?
Yeah, I mean, we've not done many gigs in the last couple of years, and we thought, to be honest, it's not been as bad as we thought it would. Like, our records sell well. There's like publishing money. There's lots of little bits that come in that sort of keep you ticking over, and we've been adapting.
Yeah, great stuff, man. And you guys are just were you in the US for a tour there?
Next month,
right?
End of the year we go to the States. Yeah.
Everything all good with visas and stuff? Because I've heard a lot of artists are having an absolute nightmare getting visas for the US at the moment.
Yeah, we did have a bit of a nightmare. We had to cancel some gigs a couple of months ago, but postpone them to later this year and next year. But we're back on now. We've got our visa ready to roll. So
nice.
Forward to it.
How are you feeling about traveling again?
I don't know. All right, I think. Yeah. We'll see. Yeah. I think, I don't know is the honest answer.
Yeah. That's good that you don't know at least.
It's been a while since I've done it. I mean, like, it's weird how you get used to not traveling. And then, like, the other week I had to go to London and I was like, ooh, London, that's so far. I've got to go on a train. Yeah. How am I going to do it? And I was like, oh my God, you get a grip, man.
Yeah. It's funny because I interviewed Simon from Anthem on I think it was 2 podcasts ago, and he was saying that like coming out of COVID, a lot of the artists were like, yeah, we're only going to do 1 or 2 gigs a week, and we're going to make sure we sleep well, and we're not going to put us through this hamster wheel. And he's like 8 weeks into touring again, just everybody's at after parties till 8 in the morning. They're all like, 4 gigs a weekend, waking up at like 7 o'clock in the morning, having to rush out to get a flight somewhere else. It's just straight back on it.
Yeah, I think I'm out of that now. I mean, like, it's been a few years since I was, since that was my sort of lifestyle. But yeah, I mean, you don't know. We're creatures of habit, aren't we? It's easy to fall back into those. Patterns.
I've definitely, Rich, made a decision that I'm changing a lot of things, like just in regard to probably health and lifestyle over coming out of COVID, because the pace that I was running at was just not sustainable, and doing like shitloads of tours and shows and stuff, and it's just made me really look back and gone like, who am I interested in touring? Like, am I genuinely interested in their music? Do I connect with them on a human level? And if they don't pass those 2 tests, then I'm just going to pull back, because time is something that we're never going to get back, and I don't want to spend my time now doing stuff that I don't want to do.
Absolutely, man. Totally.
Yeah. How's the diary looking, mate? Have you got many gigs planned for the next while?
Yeah, we've got later in the year. We're quite busy. We've got some in Germany, some in the States, Canada, Mexico. A lot in the States, actually. America's kind of where it's at the moment, I think.
America's 100% where it's at. I've kind of heard mixed reports about the UK, actually, mate, because a few of the agents I've spoken to have said to me, there's this perception that the UK is like absolutely firing from the outside, because people are seeing social media footage of like Parklife and Creamfields and Coxey playing these massive stages and all this kind of stuff. But they said like that's actually not what it's like. The clubs are struggling, and a lot of the mid and lower tier stuff, a lot of stuff's getting cancelled because of poor ticket sales. They feel people's behavioral patterns might have changed a bit, where they might not want to be in crowds just yet until this thing's totally eliminated. And maybe. I mean, I don't really know. Like, I've taken the last 2 years opportunity to be more of a hermit and get on with my running. I love cooking. I love running. I love like going to bed early. Yeah.
Like, and I've just opted out of even like I don't use social media. Like, I honestly, like, I don't know anything about it.
That's amazing. What a great way to live. It's like,
well, for now.
Yeah, totally. I guess you'll have to get back on it. But how have you guys found? This is a question asked nearly all artists. Have you found it a challenge to, I guess, stay relevant for bookings? While this has been going on, or have you made an effort, or have you basically let the music do the talking? Yeah,
I mean, with us, I think we usually try to just let the music do the talking.
Yeah.
We've never really been that comfortable, being sort of like social media showman, if you like.
Yeah.
We're getting older. We're not sort of pin-ups.
Man, stop selling yourself short.
We just try and let the music do the talking, the same when we're playing, really.
Yeah, amazing, bro. Good stuff. And have you done a lot of running over the last 18 months?
Yes, I have. I've been running pretty consistently every week, sort of trying to do 3, 4, 5 runs a week.
Great. How's your tell me about your marathon. How was it?
Okay, so it was my second marathon.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It was really tough. I didn't really properly train for it. How I came out around the map. I'll tell you how not to do a marathon strategy. It's basically exactly how I did this. So 3 months ago, over summer, I did a few little races, a few 10Ks, a few half marathons, and one of them, the last half marathon I did in, I think, June, was the Leeds half marathon, which is really hilly. I'm not used to hills. I live in York where it's all flat. So it was a bit of a shock. And I was really surprised when I finished in 1 hour 28 on a hilly half.
That's such a killer pace, mate. That's unbelievable.
Right. So for me, I was just like quite surprised. And then, normally my running, like these days, there's no ego in it. I don't run for time. I don't run for anyone. I just run for me, for my body and
enjoyment.
My mind. Be out in the countryside to enjoy it. If anything, I mean, I never look at my times when I'm running. I'll occasionally glance down at my heart rate to see if my sort of effort feels like it looks like. But other than that, I'm just getting in there with my breath and enjoying being out and about. So as soon as I saw the 128 Leeds half, all of a sudden the ego runner comes from nowhere and is like, oh, 128 half. Well, 2 half marathons. Maybe I could go sub 3:15. Maybe I could go sub 3:10. And then the other voice comes in going, maybe you could go sub 3. And I'm like, right, okay, so how am I going to do sub 3? I've got marathon training books upstairs, really, really good marathon training books. Didn't bother looking at them. Just went, yeah, well, maybe if I just set off at sort of 4:15 per kilometre pace and just try and hang on for 42 kilometres. That is not how to do a marathon. Anyone listening to this who's doing quick as thieves, don't do that. Don't do that strategy. Read the book, follow the book. Listen to Mike. Mike will tell you how to do the marathon. Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. So what happened is I went out, the first 10K, which is through the city. I went out, I did the first 10K in 41:50. So it's like, I think it's about 4:13 per kilometre pace, something like that.
Brutal. My PB for 10K is like 40:38.
Right. Yeah. I mean, mine's just similar to mine. So too fast for where I was going at that time. And I decided that I wasn't going to. Another thing, don't do this. If you run by heart rate, which I do a little bit, I decided I wasn't going to look at it in this race because it would just it would just send me under. So about 10K, and I was like, bloody hell, I'm feeling this. And I thought I'll glance down at my heart rate. I'm 41 years old now, so using the typical sort of understood metrics of how you gauge what your maximum heart rate is, 220 minus age, so it's about 179 my max heart rate. Well, my heart rate was 188, and I got 32 more kilometers to run, and I was like, I started to think, hang on a minute, this isn't sustainable, is it? I'm not going to be able to keep doing this. So I slowed down a little bit to about sort of 435, 440 per kilometer, and I held that for another 16 kilometers, more or less, but my heart rate wouldn't drop below 182, 183. It was there. And even when I slowed down a little more, it was just like, I'd had a chest infection for 2 weeks up to the marathon. And the night before the marathon, I couldn't sleep. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Yeah.
When you've got a big race and then you start to it gets to 11 and then 12 and then 1, and then you're like, oh my God, please go to sleep. And once you start doing that and your palms start sweating, you've got no chance. So, yeah. It got to about 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was the night of the Tyson Fury fight, and I was like, should I just get up and watch the boxing? And it wasn't great. Anyway, so I didn't really sleep very much before the race, and then didn't really factor this in. So I'm sort of 26 kilometers in, and I start to get cramp in my left leg. And I'm like, oh no, there's still 16 kilometers to go. God. I'll try and slow down a little bit more. And then I think from most of the last 16, I just sort of jogged, walked, hobbled. And the support was amazing. I mean, Manchester were amazing. They really did come out and they were amazing. But it's not a nice feeling, and sort of berating myself the last 10 miles. Like, why didn't I just enjoy it? I love running. I've hated this.
Yeah, Rich, you know what's funny though? I've had experiences where I've gone to bed the night before a big run and, eaten all the healthy food and got all the, good sleep, and waking up the next morning and just run like absolute crap. And then there's been nights when I've got smoked a joint, maybe ended up like eating loads of crap food with a mate, not getting a good sleep, and gone out and run like an absolute champion the next day. So
right.
I've actually learned to completely make peace with the fact if I don't get a good sleep the night before, I actually don't care, because I've had that experience so many times. And just, I'll tell you another funny one, mate, when you talk about cramp. Our race last year, I did that ultra marathon, and it was like 63.3K. And I had my strategy all worked out. And I started out, heart rate was low, wasn't letting my heart rate go above 152 the whole way. I thought, I'll just keep it at that. And if I've got any gas at the tank the last 10K, I'll just put the foot down. And like, there was only like 6 or 7 of us in the ultra, but I was ahead for the first 42K. And I went round, it was like 3 loops of a half marathon up and back. And the whole way through my training program, mate, you know, I had a couple of niggles with my Achilles, and I had a slight knee issue for a while. You always get something when you're training for a long distance event. But I have not experienced cramp for like 7-8 years. And just when I turned around to do the 3rd loop out and back, I just started getting these like lightning bolts through my legs of cramp. And they were everywhere, my calves, my quads. And then my mate Ollie, who was like doing it as well, he just sailed past me, and I was like, oh, you motherfucker. But I ended up doing like, I went around the marathon, I think in like 3 hours 37. Mate, it took me 2 hours and 15 to do the last half marathon. I was just crawling and hobbling, and mate, it's quite humbling, as you know. You're just like
really humbling. Like I didn't respect the distance. The distance kicked my ass.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, marathon, you know, I mean, you got it a bit earlier than most people, but like for people who haven't trained for it, that usually between 32 and 40K is just like, you're in the pain cave.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a great lesson that I learned there, is like, you know, you got to respect the distance, and a marathon is not 2 half marathons.
No.
I know it sounds like it, but it really isn't.
We've got one of the guys in our group he's this amazing runner called Jay, and he's done heaps. And like Jay's attitude is, if you want to run a 3-hour marathon, you need to be able to run a 1-hour-20 half marathon.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, he's like, anybody thinks you're going to double your half marathon time is in for a bit of a surprise on the day. Yeah. Hey, Rich, I just want to backtrack a bit. So, obviously you did that race last weekend, but tell us how your run journey started, because my memory of you and exercise is, I'll never forget this, is us going for a day snowboarding in Mount Buller, and you were literally like, could not move a muscle in your body for like a week after. You were telling me it was the most pain you were ever in. It was like, you were describing it as after being like through a week of boot camp. So I'd like to know what prompted you to get running, and tell us about how your run journey started.
Yeah, sure. So when I was a kid, I ran everywhere. I mean, back then I was sort of described as hyperactive. These days, as a kid, I would have been straight away diagnosed as ADHD.
Yeah.
But back in the 80s, they didn't really do that so much. And I ran everywhere. I ran to the bus stop, I ran in school, I ran at home. If I was going somewhere, I was running or playing football or running to play football. You know, far too much energy from my mum to handle, no concentration at school, couldn't really, you know, just distracting other people. And anyway, I didn't think I needed to work hard at school because I was going to be a professional football player. I mean, I was completely delusional. I was way too skinny. You know, I wasn't even very good at football, but I was sure that I was going to be one.
Yeah.
And so that was when I was a kid. But I did love running, but I didn't really associate running as a sport. It was just something that I did because I had so much energy and I didn't know what to do with it. And then when I was about 13 years old, I went to the doctors, and the doctor diagnosed me as having asthma. And I said, "Oh, well, that's not good because I'm going to be a professional footballer." And he just looked at me and went, "You're never going to be a professional footballer." And I was like, "Oh." And I was quite crushed, really. And the doctor said, "You'll be all right. You'll be all right. Don't worry about the asthma too much. But whatever you do, just make sure that you never smoke." So the next week, I went out and started smoking. And then shortly afterwards, you know, I found alcohol and electronic music at, 14, 15 years old. And then got into the party scene big time and just completely forgot about running, forgot about football, and concentrated on going out and having a good time. And then my 20s arrived and my drinking got quite heavy. smoking 20 a day, partying, going out on a Friday night, coming back on a Sunday night,
Yeah.
no worries, then going and doing some job on a Monday after not sleeping the entire weekend, putting my body through the paces. And then my mid-20s arrived and started Audiojack, and all of a sudden with Jamie, and all of a sudden, I had an excuse to be up all weekend partying. I drank every single night, no exceptions, through my 20s.
I actually, Rich, I remember like the first 5 or 6 tours where you were like, it was like you were going for a 6-pack every single night, every night.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like I used to think if I drank 4 beers in a night, that was a night off. If I didn't open a second, or if I was drinking wine that night, if I didn't open a second bottle, that was quite an achievement, which now just seems, insane. But that's just the way I lived my life back then. And then, so that was my 20s. My 30s came. I arrived in, around 30 years old. And I was having Sunday lunch with my girlfriend, now wife, and it was at the bottom of the hill near where we used to live. And, Sunday afternoon, we had Sunday lunch, probably like 3 or 4 pints in a Sunday lunch, maybe a joint afterwards, something like that. And we were walking back up the hill, and I couldn't walk up the hill. Like my breathing was so bad. Do you remember my chest rattling?
Yeah.
Like my chest used to just rattle all the time, like as if something was rattling around in there. And I had to stop on this hill, and I just couldn't carry on. I had to stop and have a little rest like an old man at 30. And I remember that night, we went to bed and she wanted a cuddle, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't have you that close. I need the space around me to breathe. And I was just like, this isn't right. I need to do something about this. Like, this is, and I mean, really, I probably had the fitness age of, an old man, really, like at age 30. So the next day I said, I'm going to go for a run, Kate. I'm going to go and run. And from my house in Leeds, there was a park outside the back. It's probably like 300 meters to the bottom of the park, 300 meters back. And I'm like, I'm going to run to the bottom of that park and back. And she was like, all right, I've got to watch this. So she came outside. I put some, I didn't have any running clothes, so I just put whatever trainers I got on and started running down this field. I got about halfway down the field, probably about 150, 200 meters. And I just had to stop. I just bent over double, and then I was sick. And then I just walked back up to the house, like with my, like, oh God,
defeated.
I'm never going to run ever again. It's not for me. I'll try swimming instead.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is about the same time as we started touring with you. And I remember being at Bondi Beach with you, and I can't remember what you said. It was something to do with my breathing. I think it was something like, "Hey, Rich, can I do the accent? I'm allowed to do the accent." Apologies to anyone who finds the accent offensive, but "Hey, Rich, your breathing's fucked." I was like, "What?" And you're like, "Do you think you can run down the beach with me?" And I was like, yeah, I'm sure I can run down the beach. And we had a little jog down this beach and back. And, I did realize at that time that, I really needed to do something about it. And so you were brilliant. I mean, you were great in the way that you encouraged me to start running. Like you were just telling me about your running, and you introduced me to Born to Run, which is a phenomenal book. Really inspired me to start my own running journey. And it was a big inspiration. It planted a seed in my head. And then I remember, I think this was around 2012, 2013, and then the year after we moved to Ibiza. Me, Jamie, our current girlfriends but now wives, and we moved into a big complex with 2 villas on it and a pool, and we had a little basketball hoop. It was really idyllic, and I'd got a great life. Like me and Jamie had made our music world. We got our lovely partners, and we got a lovely place to live and our dream job and everything. And I remember being sat at a table in the house one day, just with my head in my hands and just looking outside, lovely sunny day, and just being like, why do I feel so miserable? Like everything in my life is exactly as I want it. Why do I not feel as I should? And that's when I realized that all the external factors will only take you so far. it's something inside me that I needed to work on. So it's a bit of an epiphany for me, really. And I knew that I had to make a change to my lifestyle there and then. I mean, you know, I'd spent so many years rebelling against the system and being like, yeah, I can get up and have a beer if I want. I can get up and have a joint if I want. No one's going to tell me what to do. But it was really me that was harming, and not anybody else.
Yeah,
you know? So that was a real sort of time for change for me. I think the next day I went out for a run with Jamie's girlfriend, just a nice slow jog, and it felt really good. I'd never really done jogging before. I'd only ever, like, if I was running, I was going as fast as I could, and then been feeling sick after like 2 minutes. But yeah, it felt really good, so I decided to do it again. And about the same time, I started doing a little bit of yoga and meditating, and trying to spend less time on my phone and just being a bit more conscious about what I was putting into myself and the thoughts that I was having, and trying to change a few little things. I'd set myself little tasks, like I'd run at 11 a.m. and I would say to myself, you can't have a beer or a joint until after you've run. And then, like, slowly over time, I'd push it back into the day until, I'd be running at 6 or 7 p.m. and I'd be sober, and then I'd get back and I'd be feeling good. And I'd have a shower and I'd be like, I feel really good. Like, I feel naturally good. Like,
endorphins.
It was quite a big thing for me to realize. But back then, even so, like, I had quite a maniacal sort of egoic approach to running to begin with. Like, I never sort of set off and just jogged. It was like, right, when you're the sort of runner, your first kilometer is your fastest.
Yeah.
I'd set off and I'd be like, first kilometer, 4:15, second 5, third 5:30, fourth 6, and before you know it, at the end, I'm like coming back and yeah, completely. But that was just the way I looked at it. Like, I loved competing against myself. I loved trying to beat my own 5K time, not for anyone else, just for me, to try to sort of improve myself, I guess. And in that first year of running, I quite quickly saw my 5K time come down from about 27 to about 23 minutes. And then I made the route a little bit longer, started running through Santa Gertrudis, made it up to about 8K. And then I entered a few races in Ibiza, a 10K and a 12K. I actually thought I was going to die on the 12K. I was hallucinating so bad. But it felt so good. It felt so good to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And then I loved running in Ibiza, although it was very hot. And it started to become something that I did more regularly, although it wasn't until about 2017, when my little girl was born, and me and my wife decided to move back to the UK, to York, which has got amazing countryside around it, loads of phenomenal places to run. There's the Solar System Way, which is like a 13-mile long track, and it's got models of all the different planets of the solar system to scale. So you can, you see them all on this track. It's like an old, it was a train track. We've got a really good thing called the Orbital Loop, which is like a big cycle track that goes around the city. There's loads of countryside paths you can run on, and I just loved running here. I joined Strava and started doing longer runs, and they became, more of an important part of my life, and exploring the city. And then I decided I wanted to try and do a half marathon. And I bought faster road racing, 5K to half marathon by Pete Fitzinger.
Yeah.
And that basically taught me that I didn't know anything about running at all. Like, the way that I ran was insane, and it was the reason why I kept getting little niggling injuries and having to take 3-4 days off from running, was because I was just continually running too fast.
Yeah.
And this completely revolutionized my approach to running. Really, I realized that these long, more slow cruises with a lower heart rate through the countryside were actually really, really enjoyable to me. Much more control, lower effort, low heart rate. And then,
Rich, then you find out on top of that, because I've had the exact same experience. You find out on top of that these lower heart rate, more enjoyable runs are actually better for your times.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
I've been through that moment as well, like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah, amazing. Really, really, epiphany for me, really. And then my recovery time's less, so I can go again sooner. And I started getting really into daydreaming and just listening to podcasts, and
just being in my own world. Like my favorite runs really are like the depths of winter, sideways rain smashing you in the face, no other humans in sight anywhere. You know, maybe like 6 a.m. is just one lone person walking their dog, and you, and the countryside and the rain in your face, and I'm just like, I feel alive. You know, like it's for my mental health and my physical health, but you know, increasing those natural feel-good chemicals, just it's the best high.
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely. That's incredible, mate. That's it's such a great intro, and it's great when you find that moment. I think when you realize that the runs don't have to be painful, and like I think that's the part that people that actually start to enjoy running. You know, with this whole group I've got going out, Rich. You know, we've got nearly 300 people doing our event now, and like I try and spend as much time as I can, especially with the beginners, teaching them to slow down. That's all I do. That's my like, and they all look at me as quite as an experienced runner, and I'll go out and run with them, and you know, a lot of them are just running for the first time and they're out of shape, and they've got me, who's like they see as an experienced runner, running behind them, going, slow down, you're running too fast. And by doing that, they come back after the run, and they're, as you said, they're not flogged, they're not cooked, and then they want to do it again because they enjoy it. I mean, you and I both know, mate, you go out and run 2K at that breakneck speed, and then you're especially if you're trying to keep up with someone else, it's like demoralizing, man. It's like you just want to throw in the towel, you know.
There's a great quote that I like, and it's if you want to run fast, run far. If you want to run far, run slow.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Great stuff. And I think you mentioned before, I said to you, so like the first pair of runners that you got, was that the first, like, was that after you did that run with Kate? Where Kate was looking at you?
I think the first pair of runners I got, I think it was Asics.
Yeah.
Which, you know, they're quite a good running shoe, but it was I suppose you went to the, you know, a cheap running place and just got the sort of the cheapest reasonable pair of running shoes that I didn't really have any idea about what running shoes were back then. These days,
have you had a shoe fit done now? Have you got have you done the up
and running? I overpronate, so I wear a range, but mostly slightly supportive.
I'm the same, Rich. I try and, you know, I mean, I'm sure you're aware as well. The best thing you can do is run in different shoes, but from the same type of, you know, like I know that I'm a neutral, so I've got like a pair of Asics, a pair of New Balance, a pair of Mizuno, and I literally, mate, I just grab whatever's in the cupboard that I didn't run on the day before.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a really good thing to rotate a little bit. I tend to switch between Brooks and Saucony.
Yeah.
I've got the Saucony Endurance for like longer races, but the Brooks Adrenaline for me, like they're like wearing gloves on my hand, like gloves for my feet. Like just for my feet, they're like the perfect shoe. So I have a pair of Brooks Adrenaline for running, and then I have a pair that I just wear for day to day. And actually, they're like black trainers, so I just wear them on gigs, and then I can just switch and go running in them. So I don't have to pack a pair of running trainers as well.
Amazing. Do you monitor how many kilometers you put into a pair of trainers?
No, this is something I'm really bad at. Like, I don't really, like, it's weird. Like, I don't want to believe the marketing of them. I don't want to have spent like £120 on a pair of trainers, and then they go, yeah, these are great. They're going to last you 300 miles. And I'm like, well, that's 2 months. Like, I can't buy a new pair of trainers every 2 months. And one thing that I do that's quite bad is I tend to run in them until like, I feel my feet hurting, and then I'm like, I need to change these now. Like when there's no sort of like support there anymore, and like, I can feel it.
I do the exact same thing, mate. I mean, I know there was a stage there for a couple of months there. I was doing 500k every 28 days, and like,
wow, that's amazing.
And I know for a fact, I did that for maybe 3 months. But I probably did it in 2 pair of trainers. So I was like, the thing is, you're supposed to get 500k out of a pair, but I was doing probably 750, 800.
Right.
Okay. Have you tried any of these like super trainers, mate? Like any of these ones with the big cushiony soles that a lot of people are actually running marathons and stuff in now? The reason I ask is there's a friend of mine, Callum, who I was looking at his Strava times, and he was running like he's not a bad runner. He's just kind of getting into it. A lot of his times were like 5:30, 5:40 per kilometer. Out of the blue, he posts this run one day, and it's like 10K at 4:26 pace. I was like, mate, where did that come out of? And he was like, I swear to God, Mike, I bought a pair of these new, I think it was like Vaporflies or something, Nike Vaporflies. And he was like, from the minute I put them on, I was like, I'm going to be running at least half a minute per kilometer quicker. He said it was like trampolines under his feet. Have you tried anything like that?
Yeah, I've got this, is it Saucony Endurance?
Yeah.
I'm not keen on Nikes. They're too thin for my feet. I've got quite wide feet. And Nikes tend to be quite a thin shoe. So I haven't actually tried those ones. But the Saucony Endurance, they are good. They are good. The one with the carbon plate in the middle.
Yeah.
I think they do make a slight difference to my runs, but I have noticed for my feet, I get a little bit of pain with them after a longer run, whereas when I'm wearing Brooks, I don't. Right. By the way, if anyone from Brooks is listening to this and you want to send me free stuff, buy Brooks trainers. They're amazing.
Yeah.
Gloves on your feet.
Free plug. You mentioned something earlier, Rich, and I think this is something that everybody, when they get into the run journey, discovers. How does running contribute to your well-being?
Well, as a child with sort of, too much energy for people to handle. Yeah. When it's untreated, it can manifest in different ways when you get to be an adult. And, after many years of trying to sort of combat that with drink and, recreational party stuff. Yeah. These short-term plasters in the long term create bigger problems. And for me, I often describe running as the best type of self-harm I have available. Like, that sounds like quite a negative way to describe about running, but it can be a little bit self-harming when you're running far and you get back and you ache. But the endorphins and the feel-good chemicals that running creates really, really contribute to like helping me to feel much more balanced and positive and content. And in the moment, while I'm doing it and afterwards, and for many hours afterwards, like nothing else does. Like sometimes these days, I even like consider the running to be more like my yoga warm-up, if you know what I mean. Like I've got like a sequence of things that I'll do. And if I have a day where I have these things, like it'll be get up. I don't tend to stretch much before I run because I start so slow. So I ease my way into it that way. But then I'll get back, I'll do some yoga and a meditation. I'll have a bath, a hot bath if it's winter, a cold bath if it's summer. And then eat loads of food. And I love eating food. And, all these things I love. And to do these things in this order, like there is very little things that can happen to me afterwards that will get me down or that will get in my way. It's like nothing's a problem for the rest of the day, like I can just take things in my stride. So it's a massive thing for me. What about you?
Very, very similar, Rich. Like, it's so weird because when I grew up, you were obviously someone like that was a runner when you were younger from the way you described running after a ring. I wasn't. I was like the slowest kid at every running race in school. I was kind of like overweight kid. I was like, running was not something that ever came natural to me. But I've just, I started running when I was like maybe 17 or 18 for a little bit and kind of went in and out of it, did a little bit at uni, but again, like party lifestyle at uni, and didn't really do it seriously until I kind of came over here. And then I spent 4 or 5 years when I first got here doing a lot of gym work, and I was quite big and a bit of a beefcake. And then I just, I started running just to try and lose some weight. And I think it came into my life at the right time, and I just really enjoyed it. And then me and a few mates, we signed up and we did a couple of those tough mudder events, where you're like doing obstacles. So we trained running for that, and we had great fun. And then I just, I came out of a relationship, and I was a bit like, probably damaged from it. And I was literally, as soon as we broke up, me and my ex-girlfriend, I I was going out to go on a bender, and just something in my head just went, don't do this, go and buy a bike and sign up and do an Ironman. And I just like literally, Rich, I hadn't had my arse in the seat of a bike for 20 years. And I walked into a bike shop and dropped $1,500 on a bike and came home that evening and signed up for an Ironman later that year. And that was probably the real start of my run journey. That was like, 7 years ago or whatever. And then, just did loads of running from the Ironman training. And then after the Ironman training, my mate Ollie, I think you know Ollie, he had done an Ironman the following year. While we both did these Ironman, we raised money for the Fred Hollis Foundation. And then we said it'd be great to do something together. So we found that there was a 60K run the following year that was specifically for the foundation we support. But you needed a team of 4, and you had to have at least, the teams had to be made up of male and female. So we got like another mate of ours and another female friend of ours, and we entered, and we kind of documented our story on social media and raised more money for the foundation. And then the next year after that, a few other mates said, like, we'd love to join you. So the next year we had 2 teams of 4. And then coincidentally, the event that we were doing, they introduced a 30K leg. So it became quite a bit more accessible for other people. 60K is quite a long stretch. And I put it out in my social media and just said, look, guys, we're gonna do this event again. There's a 30K leg. We're gonna be training. I'm happy to take people for training if you want to join us. And like we ended up with 5 teams doing the 30K and I think 2 teams doing the 60K. So there was like 28 of us. And then because we had a few DJs who were all, some of them had big social media profiles, and lots of people were following this journey of this group from Melbourne doing this training for this event. The year after that, I put it out in my social media saying, I'm going to do it again. Anyone want to join us? Expecting if we got another 10, that'd be good. And I woke up the next morning, 120 messages in my inbox going, I want to do it. So that was at the start of last year. And then, we started training in January for the event that was supposed to be in May. Then COVID kicked in, the event got moved to August. And I told we had 120 at that stage. I had said to them, guys, if you want to be part of our team, you have to commit to one thing. And that was everybody has to raise $1,000 for the foundation. So I was like literally at 120 people, and guys from Sydney and everything signed up, this big group from Sydney who were all going to come down and do it. And the event ended up getting cancelled. And I was sitting going like, man, I'm sitting on like 120 people all prepared to raise all this money. I've been training for 6 months now at this stage. So I happened to bump into one of my old triathlon buddies, and I was taught like literally the week the event got cancelled. I was like, what the fuck did I do? And he said to me, Mike, I'm working for the council. And it turned out to be the council where I lived in the area. And he said, mate, I think this is a great initiative you've got going. I'm going to try and help you get a permit to run your own event. And I was like, run marathon event? And he's like, mate, you run music events. It's not that different. So that was basically how our Quickest Thieves Marathon was born last year. And then this year, we raised like 262 grand last year for the foundation. And then this year, we got, obviously, as you know, like Coxie came down in the day, and he's like, give it a lot of profile and a lot of media coverage and stuff. And then this year set out again, and this year we have like nearly 300, and the goal is to raise 500 grand. So, I mean, amazing. Running has become something for me now that is like, it's such a huge part of my life, and it gives me a huge sense of purpose. And what it does for me mentally is I love being around people that I can see having a positive change in their lives, because, when they start running, they naturally start eating healthier. They get out with someone like me and they start running, and then we have a conversation about meditating, and then next thing, they'll try meditating. People are, friendships are made on some of these runs, mate. Like, I had these 2 guys out a couple of weeks ago that never knew each other, but they were old club heads from back in the day. And we started running around the lake. We run around, and one of them was like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I'm important." He's his wife had this. She started making these blankets for babies that has got silk on the back of them to stop the baby's hair falling out. Another guy is making these bibs for pizzas. So you take up the pizza box, and it like you tear a bit off, and it becomes a bib with like they've got like costumes and stuff on them. before we finish about halfway around the run, the two boys are sharing a container from China, sharing the expenses to get the two different products back over to and you know, I signed a young kid who was a runner. His name's Rory, and within 24 hours of me signing him and sending his music to this guy Chris, who's Carol Cox's studio engineer, Carol phoned the kid going, I want this music for my label. So all this amazing stuff happens around running for me in my life, you know, and it's just there's no downside, mate. You know, there's like it gives me purpose. It's really helped through COVID. It's kept our whole music community in Melbourne connected. So I can't put a value on it. And I do look back and sometimes and go, how did I go from being like not a runner to being in this situation where this running thing has got it dominates my life. You know, it really has me scratching my head sometimes, but it's something that I do feel I'll be a runner till the day I drop dead. You know, like I love it. I love everything it brings. I love the way it brings the community together and the benefits and stuff. So yeah, it does a huge amount for my well-being in my life, you know.
Right.
Hey, and tell me this, do you think what on the flip side of that, does running present any challenges for you?
I don't necessarily see running as being a challenge so much as like life is the challenge for me. Running is like one of the solutions to the challenge of life. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you know, if I enter a race and my ego starts to get the better of me and I start thinking about times that can present a challenge in the race and it can present a challenge afterwards. You know, when if I get injured because I've tried to run too fast, but then I just remind myself that, you know, the times don't matter to me. It's all like what matters is getting out there and feeling good. And if I could choose between racing and training, I'd choose training every time. I'm never doing a race again.
I guess that leads on to my next question. Do you have run goals then? Do you have, I mean, obviously, I think when you get to a certain level, you kind of go, okay, I feel I want to do a half marathon. And then you go, I've done a half marathon, I want to do a marathon. At some point, you do 5 marathons, you go, all right, I want to do an ultra. You know, like
right. Well, this is it. So when I first started running back in 2013, I thought I daydreamed and thought, you know, wouldn't it be amazing one day to be able to run a 5K in less than 20 minutes? And like, imagine being able to do a 10K in less than 40 minutes, two 20-minute 5Ks back to back. And then I was like, you know, like complete pipe dream. Like, imagine one day being able to run a half marathon in less than 90 minutes. And like, since then, I've achieved all those things. And like, whilst it feels good to reach a level of fitness that, you know, once seemed impossible, these things are essentially ego trips. And any ego trip, the joy of it is short-lived. It's never going to be as good as you think, because as soon as you do it, as soon as I went sub 20 in the 5K, I was like, I wonder how long it'll take me to go sub 19. And you just enjoy the moment, man. You know, before your ego latches onto the next challenge, you know, the next dangled carrot. So it's, yes, I have had some run goals, and I've achieved them all the ones that I set out to achieve. But the reason that I'm injured at the moment, I've got some mild, it's called posterior tibia tendonitis. That's self-diagnosed, maybe it isn't, but I'm pretty sure it is, in my left ankle, and it's because I let my ambition to run a fast marathon supersede my training and my actual ability, and I forgot that I don't really care about the times. I just love running. I could have enjoyed that Manchester Marathon so much more. I can run that distance. I could have probably run that distance faster if I just set off like a tortoise rather than a hare.
Yeah. I've got this thing, Rich, where I always say to the kids, because a lot of the young guys out training with us, the guys and girls, are DJs, and I'm always like, I use the analogy of like when you're a young DJ and you go in and play the first gig, the first thing you do is you go and turn the mixer, everything up in the red, just belt it, and then like half an hour in, the sound system starts crackling. You're going, what the f-? And then in the rest of your gig, shit. I was like, that is what happens when you start running. You come out of the blocks like a hare, and then all of a sudden you're cooked, and you're like, I remember, Rich, one of the first 5K races I ever did when I was like 17 years old, heading out, and tried to keep up with the lead group, and I made it like 500 meters with them, and then I was absolutely flogged, and there was a hill about 3 or 4K round, and I swear to God, one of my mates' grandmothers passed me on the hill. Like, and my mates are all sitting like, I think I did the first K in like, 4:20 or something, and then I was literally like on 9.5 minute Ks towards the end, just but yeah. How many kilometers a week would you say you're doing at the moment?
I'd usually do between about 30 and 60. That's been pretty consistent for the last 2 or 3 years. And interesting, it has increased slowly over the years. Last month I passed 10,000 kilometers of running since I started in 2013.
Amazing.
But like almost 8,000 of them have been done in the last 4 years. So I've been pretty consistent for the last few years. But I'd probably like to up it a little bit, I think. But
you probably what, sorry?
I'd like to up it a little bit. I'd like to do a little more. But
I think, Rich, there's a great YouTube channel I follow that I must send on to you. And the guy talks about like all the good runners, like the Kenyans. I mean, some of these guys are doing 200-300K a week, but it's like 95% of it is just super cruisy, easy pace. Yeah, totally. And there's obviously a line in the sand because we've got jobs and everything else, but like, I've noticed myself. For me, when I was doing my Ironman training, I was in this like one long run a week, and then a tempo run and a interval session, and then another session of some description. And when I look back now, that didn't make me any quicker. What made me quicker was the longer, slower stuff and doing a little bit more of it. And Rich, a lot of what you said there, just going out and enjoying running and not kind of. I do run to heart rate. I don't run to time, but I will always, like, if my heart rate goes too high, I'll pull back. But I never look and go, I'm doing 450, I need to slow down, or I'm doing 430, and whatever. I'll run to heart rate.
Yeah, just to drop back to your last question, I do have a running goal, and that's just to be able to run regularly for the rest of my life without getting injured.
That's an amazing goal, mate.
That's the dream.
Yeah. How do you normally go with injuries, and do you do a lot of cross training, mate? Do you do other stuff outside of running to help your running?
I don't do as much as I should. I do yoga. I do a little bit of calisthenics, although that's something I'd really like to get a lot more into. But whilst my legs now are quite, I guess, impressive, certainly compared to what they were when I was a teenager, I've got the upper body of the Milky Bar kid. So like, as soon as I start trying to, get down and do press ups, I'm quickly humbled when I'm trying to push back up on my fourth press up, going, why?
Yeah.
So calisthenics is something that I'd love to do more of. I'd love to do more swimming. Cycling, I've been meaning to buy a bicycle for like 3 years, and I just never buy one. And I'd love to do more cycling as well. So no, I don't really do much cross training at the moment, but I definitely would like to. And with this slight injury that I've got at the moment, I think I'm going to start doing a little bit more swimming as well.
I hear a triathlon brewing up there, mate. You're talking swimming, you're talking biking. You'll have the Ironman cap on soon, mate.
Yeah, right.
Have you ever done a section that left you sore as the time we went snowboarding that year?
I've never ever been as sore as when I went snowboarding with you. I've never been snowboarding since.
I remember for about 2 years after that, every time I'd mentioned touring in Australia, you would go boot camp.
Yeah, you are a pusher. But I'm glad of it. I've been glad of it all.
Yeah. How do you think you've evolved as an athlete as you've got older?
I still laugh at the thought of me being an athlete, but yeah, I suppose I am an athlete now. I'm much less egoic and goal focused. I'm much more about enjoying the journey of the run and feeling like an animal. Like, we are animals. We might be wearing clothes and going about our jobs and thinking that we've got, these important situations, but we are just animals.
Yeah.
And we forget that we're animals, and animals move and they roam. And I love being out in the countryside with nothing around me, just running free, feeling like an animal. Like, contrary to what the myth says, running's actually fixed my knees. I had bad knees before. I had clicky, knobbly knees, and now I've got these solid blocks that and that's from slow running. Physically being more toned is a bonus. Being able to breathe and having fitness is a big bonus. But it's essentially, what did you ask? How have I evolved as an athlete? I mean, I've gone from being someone who had a focus, and with the focus was on achieving things and times and things like that, to being someone who just likes to be out there.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds as well like, Rich, we've both had those moments of when you talk about from an evolution point of view of going, actually, not every run has to be belting it. In fact, most runs have to be the opposite. There's a very small time and a place for speed work, but doing the longer, slower stuff with the low heart rate has been something that's changed my life and made me enjoy running a lot more as well.
Definitely. I find as well, like when if you are doing a race, the shorter the race, the longer the warm up. If I'm doing a park run, I love doing park run. I do quite a lot of park runs in York and around. But if I'm doing the one that's near me, it's 5k around the track, and it's 6k to jog there and then 6k back. So normally, rather than driving there and doing the run, I'll jog there as my warm up, jog back as my cool down, and then the 5k around is the 5k. Because if I set off to do a 5k run at pace without a warm up, like my glutes and my hamstrings will let me know about it for the rest of the week,
Yeah, totally. Not even that, Rich. I find if I don't because I'm doing quite a bit of longer stuff at the minute, but if I try,
you're doing loads, man.
I try and do a 21k, just pace myself, not going flat out, but just to see where I'm sitting, maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks to monitor my improvement. But before I take off and start in the 21k, I'll always do 3 or 4k, because if I try and go too hard out of the blocks when I've got the watch on, I am dead for the most of the run. I need a long time to warm up. And there's been so many of my long runs recently that I've gone out and I was doing a lot of 30 and 36s, and I even did 142 there a few weeks ago up in the trails where we train. And there's been 3 or 4 times where in the first 5k I've been thinking in my head, I'm actually not going to make it 10k today. But once I get over 6 or 7k, I just kind of my body loosens out, and I just feel freer. And then I'm normally my last 10k is always my best 10k.
Yeah, right. That's good. That's good. Yeah. That shows that you're running at the right speed. You're running slowly enough to run well.
Totally. Hey, Rich, what advice would you give to any younger runners starting out in their journey?
Run slower.
Yeah.
However fast you're running already, run even slower than that.
Yeah.
Like I said before, to run fast, you have to run far, and to run far, you have to run slow.
Yeah.
With that endurance, you can build up your base, and when you've got the base, you can do anything you like. I love running 5Ks, I love running 10Ks, I love running half marathons. They're my 3 distances. They're quite different races. They're quite different the way that you might approach them, but because I've got the base on my legs from longer, slower runs, I feel like I've then got the base to enjoy all those distances. Try not to let your ego get in the way of enjoying the actual running, because it doesn't really matter. Your times don't really matter. That enjoying the moment, enjoying what you're doing is always the important.
Absolutely. One of the things that sorry, was that?
Yeah, just some great books. I mean, the Jack Daniels ones are good, but any of the Fitz books, Faster Road Racing is really good. Advanced Marathoning by Fitz is also really great if you're doing a marathon. My least two favorite. Go, mate. Yeah. Yeah, that one. Yeah, Daniel's running for me. That's the one.
Yeah.
My least favourite 2 runs from over 1,000 runs that I've done have been both marathons, and that's because, apart from the fact that it's a very long way, both times I let my dreaming ego get ahead of my desire just to run a marathon.
Yeah.
You know, my favourite runs have always been the running on my own in the countryside, daydreaming. You know, find what distance and effort makes you happy and enjoy it. You know, lifelong running. If you're running for increased health over longevity, you know, lifelong running. It's an analogy in itself, isn't it? It's not a sprint; it's a marathon. You know, the changes are gradual. You know, increasing the effort should be gradual. Treat your body with respect, and it will look after you.
Yeah, amazing, man, amazing. Would you ever consider tying in a run at like a gig? You know, at ADE, like they always do like the marathon on the Sunday of ADE. Would you ever think about doing anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, I maybe would do. Sure, I would do that. The DJ lifestyle often comes with quite unhealthy things and constant temptation. I'm trying to think how you would go from the gig to doing the marathon or like a half marathon afterwards if you had to commit to both those things. Like before COVID cancelled the Berlin Marathon, I was scheduled to do the Berlin Marathon in 2020, I think. And I'd planned in my head, I was like, maybe we could get a gig the night before. Maybe I could play like 5 to 8 in the morning and then do 3 hours. I'll get a 3.5 hour set and then try and jog to the start line and then do a marathon in a faster time. I mean, this is idiots thinking, but like, you know.
I'm glad you said it. Phil Kieran did that. He played a gig on the Saturday night of ADE weekend and he got home at like 2:30 in the morning. Then he did the Amsterdam Marathon on the.
No way.
Yeah. Totally.
Good man.
Yeah. Man. Do you feel, Rich, you know, I've had the likes of, you know, the whole basis around my podcast is to talk about health and well-being among the electronic music community and obviously interviewing a lot of the bigger DJs. The amount of DJs now that are making positive health changes is crazy. And I mean, for example, Patrick Toppings turned out to be a great runner. He messaged me the other night saying, Mike, I really want to run a marathon soon. Sven Vath's running. I mean, Matt from Gorgon City's running a bit, you know, like there's heaps. Right. Are you noticing there's generally a movement towards better health among DJs coming out of COVID?
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, I think there's certainly, the majority of DJs are getting older now, like, you know, into their 40s and 50s and even 60s in some cases, and, you know, are realizing that, you know, our own mortality and, you know, we do have some control over this. The last 2 years has been a great opportunity, hasn't it, for everybody, if they've chosen to take it, to break some habits. You know, when you've had a fresh slate, you've been able to, you know, you haven't had to go away and do gigs. You know, for me personally, I've used it as an opportunity to try and break some of my own destructive cycles of behavior. I've had some success. I've had some failures. You know, habits are difficult to break. I think society in general is becoming more extreme, really. There are some people out there who are really fit and healthy, and at the same time, during lockdown, it's been quite difficult for some people to take advantage of that and make a change, and they've actually gone the other way and, you know, ended up, you know, having junk food and not going out walking and just stay on the sofa, and then it's not helped them. But I don't know, man. I mean, like, I can't really speak for other DJs too much. I don't really have that many DJ friends these days. But 10 years ago, if you told me that I would be like
running marathon,
I would have laughed. It would have been impossible. I'd have laughed and I would have probably cried as well.
Because 10 years ago, if you had told me you were running marathons, I would have definitely laughed at you.
10 years ago, you were trying to get me to run like 50 meters down the beach, and I was like, why would I do that? Like, I remember, you know, Jamie's actually been running longer than I have. Jamie doesn't run. The other guy in Audiojack.
Yeah.
Listening. You know, he doesn't run often, but around 2008 or 9, he told me he was training for a half marathon with his now wife and one of our best friends. And after I finished laughing, I was just like, why? And he was like, well, like to raise some money and to see if I can do it. And I was like, but why? Like, all right, that's great, you're raising the money, but why would you put yourself through that for no reason? Like, what are you running for? And that's less than 15 years ago. Like, it just seems so ridiculous to me that someone would do that. It's people change,
Yeah. Great, right? It's great. I've really enjoyed this, man. So I am going to start wrapping things up, but one of the things I always do before it finishes, I've got this little segment called Secrets from the Other Half. So I just want to run a couple of scenarios by you. I heard about a time that Jamie and yourself and one of your mates had moved in together in an apartment in Ibiza, and you've been out there for about 2 weeks, and the girl Jamie was seeing and yourself returned home one evening to find that all of their stuff was in a pile outside the room because you and a mate had been chucking things off the balcony and had managed to hit the hotel owner's 80-year-old father on the head with a baguette in the restaurant 3 floors below. Can you confirm if this is true?
This was a very long time ago now. This was approaching 20 years ago. It was actually the first time me and Jamie had met. I don't even know why he's still friends with me now. I don't know why he's still friends with me after that summer in 2002. Jamie was like, a nice, sensible lad, went out to Ibiza for the summer, got a job and was working hard and stuff like that. And I was just an idiot with an idiot friend or two, and who'd arrived at this apartment, and we asked them. We all moved in together. There was 4 of us moving in together, and it's true. It's all true. It's all true.
one last one. So apparently Eric Pritz was supposed to play in Leeds one time, but due to his fear of flying, he bottled it and didn't get on the plane.
Where did you find out about these things?
The promoter sent a message around asking if any international DJs were home that weekend, so he asked you guys to fill in. Rather than announcing the cancellation, the promoter put a small A4 sheet with small text on a wall where no one could see it, and then proceeded to tell everyone that Rich was Eric Pritz, and he was playing back-to-back with his boyfriend because he was really nervous and needed the moral support.
It's true. It's absolutely true. And loads of people believed I was Eric Pritz. And at the same time, I've got a similar story about Jamie. Again, back in 2002, when we were out in Ibiza for the summer, which is where the story of the firing water off the balcony story comes from. Yeah, we wanted to go to Eden one night, and we didn't have any guest passes to go in. This was like 20 years ago. So we were like, let's just pretend Jamie's DJ Fergie, because he looked a little bit like him back then. So we just went to the door, and Jamie did like the Irish accent and stuff, and we were like, Fergie. And they were like, okay, come in.
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. I've actually been talking to Fergie a bit, and I think I'm going to bring him down to Australia, and he's actually been running a bit as well, mate.
Has he?
Yeah, totally. Another one's part of the cult.
It's good. I recommend it to everybody. If you haven't been running yet.
Great. Finally, last question, Rich. What is Rich doing to raise the vibration in 2021?
Right. What am I doing? Okay, so I mean, I'll start with a negative, and I'll try to spin it back around. There's a lot of things going on in the world that get me down, and I'm sure they do with you and a lot of people. COVID, Brexit, the climate, the governments, corporations, and it bothers me, and I try to not let it bother me and focus on my little world. So I've got my daughter and my wife, and I try to cook for everybody, and I try to look out for my friends. And I've been doing a little bit of volunteering with a young lad who's got ADHD during lockdown, that I can relate to, and just taking him out to play some sports and things like that, and just trying to raise the vibration around me, because I think there are so many things to fix out there, and we can't always fix everything. But if everybody can just do a little bit around them to make their own little world around them a little bit of a better place, then together we can make it a better.
Amazing. I love that, Rich. Brilliant, bro.
Mike, before we finish, I've just got to say, I know you'll hate this, but you've been such an inspiration to me, in so many ways. Like with running, whenever we come to Australia, we have such a good time with you. And I watch you, and you told the story earlier about, I can't believe it, I've just fallen into this thing, and now I'm running a running race. This stuff follows you around. You are a really special person, and
man.
You just emanate positivity, and people just want to do things with you because you're just an amazing dude. And yeah, I love you, man. Sorry.
Thanks, Rich. I love you too, man. I said, no, mate, Rich, look, it's obviously you guys, the very first year that I was touring, you guys, I think maybe you might have been like third cab off the rank. It was like, I did not have a clue what I was doing, and probably sent you to the wrong hotels a couple of times. But like, we've got an incredible friendship, me and you and Jamie, and you with all our Thick as Thieves crew. And, here we are 13 years later working on a tour, and you guys releasing on our label. Now we're running buddies as well, like it's the one thing we have to do is we have to get it running together next time you're down. But now, Rich,
I would love to come and do Quick as Thieves next year.
Definitely, mate, definitely. And Rich, I mean, seeing the change in you and the turnaround runnings made in your lifestyle, that's the kind of stuff that I live for. I love being around that energy. So, man, it's amazing to see. And thanks so much for giving up your time this evening, bro. Like, I know for a fact, Rich, this podcast is going to catch fire because all our runners are going to want to tune into it, because they've all been there where you were, which was the party going, being at the after parties and not looking after their health. And they're all now on this journey. And it's amazing to see how far it can take you. So thanks so much, bro. I really, really appreciate your time tonight. And I'll hopefully see you guys January, February, I reckon, for a tour. If things in the last week, things have got very positive in Australia. We're just waiting for this roadmap now as to what's happening with events. We should get that this week. And fingers crossed, it'll be game on. It looks like they're dropping the quarantine to at least 7 days at home, which means you're in an Airbnb, and it's nowhere near as restrictive as being in a hotel. And there's talk, like, I reckon from maybe mid-January onwards, it'll be, if you're double vaxxed, there's no quarantine.
Amazing. Yeah, just one thing to say to any runners who are out there who are thinking about, or any prospective runners who are thinking about, and you're thinking about you're too old, or you're too unfit, or you're too out of shape, or anything like that. Like at 30 years old, I couldn't even walk up a hill. If I had to guess, I would say my fitness age was somewhere around 55, 60 at 30. And now I'm 41, and my fitness age is somewhere in my 20s.
Yeah.
And there's nothing special about me whatsoever. I just put the effort in and just went out there and did it. And if you want to do it, you can do it. And I wish
Amazing, Rich. What a way to finish off. Bro, thank you so much for tonight. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak to you soon.
Take care, buddy.